Once again, I welcome you all to this session. So, in this session, we'll be doing one of the most important topics, that is agronomy. And even before starting the topic, थोड़ा सा basics हम लोग करेंगे. What exactly is that agriculture, and उसके साथ साथ what is agronomy, and then we'll go into the classification of field crops. ठीक है? जो again syllabus में ही है. I'll take you through everything. Just give me a second. I'll share the screen and आपको you know ये विजिबल रहेगा. ओके, पीपीटी. जस्ट गिव मी अ सेकंड. Hopefully my screen is visible to you all. Just
Yes,
give me a
ma'am.
thumbs up sign so that I'll understand that it's visible. Yes, thanks a lot for confirming. Thank you. Yes, now we'll start. See, as per the syllabus that has been mentioned, जो आपको पता ही है, ADO का एग्जाम 2 पार्ट्स में होता है. एंड द फर्स्ट पार्ट, स्पेशली जो एग्रीकल्चर रिलेटेड सिलेबस है, उसमें सबसे पहले आता है आपका एग्रोनॉमी. नाउ व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट एग्रोनॉमी, देयर आर लॉट ऑफ टॉपिक्स इन दैट, बहुत सारे सब टॉपिक्स है. In this class, we'll look into the topics that we are going to cover in this class is the introduction to agronomy. Before that, we'll be doing some introduction to agriculture as well. इसके basic branches क्या है, because agronomy is again one of the branches of agriculture. वहां से समझेंगे तो it would be very easy for us to proceed further. उसके बाद हम लोग करेंगे classification of crops. ये हम लोग करने वाले हैं आज के क्लास में इस पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक में. ठीक है. उसके बाद लास्ट में मैं एक क्रॉप प्रोडक्शन स्टेप्स आई एम गोइंग टू टेक यू थ्रू, and this will help you a lot in taking this subject agriculture in a much more easier manner. बहुत ही easy रहेगा. बस ये एक स्टेप आप लोग एक 7 to 8 स्टेप्स है. अगर ये याद रखेंगे देन इट वुड बी वेरी इजी फॉर यू टू फॉलो द एंटायर एग्रीकल्चर सब्जेक्ट या फिर जो भी सिलेबस है आपके एग्जाम के लिए. बहुत आराम से हो जाएगा आपको. लाइक ए स्टोरी it will go. Okay, so with this introduction, let me start today's session. Now, as I've said earlier also, सबसे पहले हम देखेंगे what exactly is agriculture. Now, this is a Latin word, and ager means land or soil, culture means cultivation, that is cultivation of crops using the soil. So if you look at the technical definition as such of agriculture, this is a science and art of producing crops and livestock. Why? Again, at the end of the day, हम लोगों को कुछ तो चाहिए ना outcome. That is economic purpose at the same time for the use of mankind. This is a basic term agriculture is. And before going any further, एक छोटा सा रिक्वेस्ट है. अगर आपको कहीं पे भी डाउट आ रहा है, मैंने कुछ कई बार होता है ना, क्वेरीज आते हैं, कुछ डाउट आता है, यू कैन कीप ऑन आस्किंग मी. अदरवाइज इन द एंड कंप्लीटली 5 to 10 minutes आई डेडिकेट फॉर ओनली क्वेश्चन एंड आंसर सेशन. कुछ भी आपके डाउट्स है तो एट द टाइम आई विल बी लुकिंग इनटू देम. अगर वेट कर सकते हैं तो लास्ट तक वेट कीजिए. अदरवाइज यू कैन कीप ऑन आस्किंग मी. आई विल कीप ऑन चेकिंग द डाउट्स एंड आई विल आंसर द क्वेश्चंस. ओके. यस, थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर योर पेशेंस. नाउ कमिंग टू ब्रांचेस ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर. Since we are doing agronomy and agronomy is also one of the branches of agriculture, एक बार वो भी देख लेंगे. ठीक है. When we talk about branches of agriculture, क्योंकि agriculture तो बहुत vast subject है. Okay, that is divided into 3 major groups. ओके, 3 major groups. एंड ये ग्रुप से एक तो क्रॉप प्रोडक्शन ग्रुप आपका, जिसमें सभी तरह के क्रॉप्स, मतलब कोई भी प्लांट पौधा, दैट विल टेक ग्रो. एंड नेक्स्ट इज एनिमल मैनेजमेंट ग्रुप. द नेम इटसेल्फ सजेस्ट अगेन सम livestock or animals, in this case animal husbandry and poultry and fisheries. When we talk about crop production group, it would be agronomy, completely about the field crops. जो रेगुलर एरेबल सीजनल क्रॉप्स होते हैं वो आते हैं. एंड देन फॉरेस्ट्री, ऑल अबाउट द फॉरेस्ट्रीज एंड हॉर्टिकल्चर. थर्ड आता है हमारा अलाइड एग्रीकल्चर ग्रुप. जैसे हर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के लिए एक एडमिन टाइप का जैसा होता है ना, बैकअप जो देखता रहता है, बैक एंड ऑपरेशंस, वो सब, that all will be done here. In this case, it is agriculture engineering and home science that fall into allied agriculture group. And for us, जो भी हमारे आज का जो सेशन है, which is that is agronomy, that belongs to the crop production group along with forest and horticulture. ठीक है. Now, ब्रांचेस ऑफ हॉर्टिकल्चर. तो ब्रांचेस ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर हो गए, उसमें एग्रोनॉमी आता है जो आज हम लोग पढ़ने वाले हैं. एंड दीज आर द ब्रांचेस ऑफ हॉर्टिकल्चर. आर्बोरिकल्चर, लाइक पेरिनियल वुडी प्लांट्स एक्सेट्रा, के बारे में, shrubs, vines, will study selection, planting, care, removal, everything we'll do in that. Okay, that's called arboriculture. Floriculture, the name it suggests flowers, production and marketing of floral crops. लैंडस्केप हॉर्टिकल्चर, जो भी ब्यूटिफिकेशन के लिए जो हम लोग करते हैं, ऑल दोस प्रोडक्शन, मार्केटिंग एंड मेंटेनेंस ऑफ सच प्लांट्स कम अंडर दिस. ओलरिकल्चर, all about vegetable crops, pomology, all about fruits, viticulture, all about production and marketing of grapes, oenology, all aspects of wine and wine making. जनरली वाइन मतलब सबसे पहले हमारे दिमाग में आता है इट इज और माइट बी इट इज ऑफ ग्रेप्स, नो, वाइन्स कई एग्रीकल्चर कम्युनिटीज से बन सकता है इंक्लूडिंग राइस। ओके, सो वो सब इसमें पढ़ते हैं। पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट, दैट इज मेंटेनिंग द क्वालिटी एंड प्रिवेंटिंग द स्पॉइलेज ऑफ हॉर्टिकल्चर क्रॉप्स, क्योंकि हॉर्टिकल्चर क्रॉप्स का शेल्फ लाइफ बहुत कम रहता है, सो दे हैव टू बी वेरी वेरी केयरफुल व्हेन इट कम्स टू द स्टोरेज ऑफ दिस हॉर्टिकल्चर क्रॉप्स। ठीक है, ये हो गए हमारे ब्रांचेस ऑफ हॉर्टिकल्चर। नाउ कम्स एग्रोनॉमी, जो बेसिक जो आज हम लोग करने वाले हैं। नाउ व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट एग्रोनॉमी, it is a Greek word from agros means field, nomos means management. So simpler terms, when we talk about agronomy, it is the agriculture science that deals with the principles and practices of crop production and field management। इसमें 3 बेसिक पिलर्स होते हैं हमारे। Okay, when we talk about agronomy, there are 3 basic pillars. One, the crop itself. Two, the soil in which the crop is grown. And 3, the environment which is surrounding the crop and the soil. So these 3 as basic pillars comprises agronomy. Simple. Okay. Pietro de Crescenzi is the father of agronomy. ठीक है, दिस इज वन। एंड द सेंट्रल थीम, कई बार ऐसा होता है कि एक आधे एग्जाम में भी आया था इससे पहले, व्हाट इज द सेंट्रल थीम ऑफ एग्रोनॉमी? इट इज नथिंग बट द सॉइल क्रॉप एनवायरमेंट रिलेशनशिप। ये भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है व्हेन इट कम्स टू एग्रोनॉमी। नाउ व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट एग्रोनॉमी, अभी हमने देखा है थीम ऑफ एग्रोनॉमी, वन, द क्रॉप साइंसेस। नाउ दिस पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक actually deals with the selection, improvement and production of crops that are useful to man. Everything, right from land preparation till the post harvest handling of the produce, all will fall under crop sciences। and again इसके अंदर बहुत सारे सब्जेक्ट्स है, सब टॉपिक्स है। ठीक है, नेक्स्ट कम्स सॉइल साइंस। नाउ दिस there when we talk about soil, that is the one that supports the life, that is the plant itself। so ये एक major theme हो गया हमारे लिए। and third is the environmental science, in which the kind of environment in which the plant is growing, and every plant or every species, it has its own unique requirements। रबी के क्रॉप्स लाके हम लोग खरीफ में नहीं कर सकते, खरीफ वाले रबी में नहीं कर सकते, राइट? तो उसी तरह से दैट ऑल environment, it is very very important for any plant to grow properly and give us that economic produce जो भी है, for whatever purpose that we are growing it। ठीक है, so this is the major theme of agronomy। ये हो गया basically। and there are 4 major dimensions of agronomy। ठीक है, सबसे पहले आता है उसका फिजिकल डायमेंशन। फिजिकल डायमेंशन में क्या है? वॉट एवर that physically it supports the growth of that crop plant, like your soil, water, nutrients, solar radiation, everything, all of these components are important, they fall under the physical dimension। biological dimension, इसमें the life itself, that is the crop itself, whatever that we are growing, and various other organisms, living organisms that are associated with this crop growth। ठीक है, थर्ड आता है इकोनॉमिक डायमेंशन। नाउ हियर कम्स द फार्म स्ट्रक्चर, ओनरशिप, किस तरह के मार्केट्स है, कितने नजदीक है, हाउ द फार्मर इज गोइंग टू मार्केट द प्रोड्यूस, एवरीथिंग वॉट एवर दैट इज whenever we do any work, at the end of the day we do it for some livelihood or some money or some economic purpose, right? so that dimension falls under this। and last, the social dimension, which includes the food, nutrition, health। actually कई बार ऐसा होता है कि बेस्ड ऑन द फूड हैबिट्स ऑफ द लोकल पीपल एंड द काइंड ऑफ द एनवायरमेंट इन विच द क्रॉप इज ग्रोइंग, वी टेक केयर ऑफ दैट, राइट? एंड अलोंग विद दैट, जिस तरह का फार्मर का एजुकेशन लेवल है, उनका न्यूट्रिशियस रिक्वायरमेंट है, या वहाँ पे उस पर्टिकुलर प्लेस में जो डिमांड है, ओके, बेस्ड ऑन दैट पीपल ओनली द काइंड ऑफ क्रॉप्स आर ग्रोन। अगर डिमांड ही नहीं है तो वहां पे राइस उगा के कोई मतलब नहीं है, राइट? सो दैट फॉर्म्स द सोशल डायमेंशन, क्योंकि वहां से भी थोड़ी बहुत इम्पैक्ट होता है ऑन द काइंड ऑफ क्रॉप्स दैट आर ग्रोन इन एट ए पर्टिकुलर प्लेस. So again, these dimensions are important, four dimensions. And there are various disciplines of agronomy. मैं तो यहाँ पे बहुत कम दे रही हूँ, इससे भी ज्यादा है. Few I have mentioned here, like plant physiology, the physiological aspect of plants and the crop itself. Okay. Plant biochemistry, agriculture chemistry, agriculture economics, crop ecology, ऐसे कई सारे disciplines है under agronomy which helps us understanding the major जो theme है. Okay, जो theme है, how we can utilize that for raising the best of the crops in the best of the conditions for the best of the utilization. ठीक है, ये हो गया different disciplines. Now before going any further, just give me a second, मैं इसको यहाँ पे कर देती हूँ. Yes. Now we spoke just now, we spoke about the classification of crops, right? So classification of crops या field crops जो भी है, उससे करने से पहले we should understand what exactly is a crop. So any cultivated plant that is grown commercially on a large scale, you can call it as a crop. Like in this case, wheat, field rice, they are majorly for food consumption of the human. So they are being grown commercially on a large scale. This is a crop. And when we talk about crops, there are three major types of croplands. So when we talk about the crops itself, there are three major types of the classification, and that is garden crops, field crops, and the plantation crops. गार्डन क्रॉप्स, आपका द नेम इटसेल्फ सजेस्ट, किचन गार्डन्स, फ्लावर गार्डन्स, बैकयार्ड गार्डन्स, उन सब में जो भी क्रॉप्स हम लोग उगाते हैं, दे ऑल फॉल अंडर दिस. फिर आपको एक और डाउट आएगा, मैम आपने अभी तो बताया है कि इट्स कमर्शियली ग्रोन. यस, समटाइम्स even after taking out whatever that is required by the families, they sometimes can go for sale also, marketing also. Hence garden में जो whatever the plants that we grow, since it is sometimes utilized as commercially or in a group, they can be called as garden crops. Okay. Next आते हैं आपके field crops. Generally when we talk about field crops, in based on the economic importance of those crops, they can be grown. And ये these are generally seasonal in nature. एंड जनरली 6 months, 1 year या फिर 2 years बाइएनियल उनका लाइफ साइकिल उतना ही होता है. दे कंप्लीट द लाइफ साइकिल एंड विल हार्वेस्ट एंड विल गो फॉर नेक्स्ट सेट ऑफ क्रॉप्स. ओके. नेक्स्ट आते हैं आपके प्लांटेशन क्रॉप्स. नाउ प्लांटेशन क्रॉप्स जनरली perennial होते हैं. These are generally annuals or biennials, and plantation crops generally they are perennials, and moreover you can't consume the plantation crops in a raw manner directly. जैसे कि हम सीरियल है डायरेक्टली वहां से ले लेते हैं, वी कैन हार्वेस्ट थोड़ी बहुत whatever the post harvest operations that needs to be done, all that we'll do and we can have it. But plantation crops, until and unless we process them, you can't consume them directly in majority of the cases. Like tea bhi ho gaya, coffee, rubber, anything, they have to be first processed and only then we'll be able to consume them. And moreover, when we talk about plantation crops, completely processing industry bhi iske, I mean very close to it, they what you'll say, they maintain that. Like tea hai to tea processing wala hota hai, coffee processing, rubber processing. Until unless we process them, you can't consume them. Okay. Now these are the classification of crop plants, of which in the agronomy part we'll be looking into the classification of field crops. Plantation crops ये सब हम लोग पढ़ेंगे कहाँ पे in detail? इन हॉर्टिकल्चर एंड प्लांटेशन क्रॉप्स, उनका सब बिल्कुल वो सब टॉपिक है, एक अलग सा ब्रांच है. ठीक है, अंडर द एग्रीकल्चर ओनली. सो हियर in this agronomy we'll be doing the classification of these crops. So here when we talk about the classification of field crops, there are various factors based on which this classification is done. Now these are the types of classification of field crops based on various parameters. Okay, सबसे पहला parameter क्या है? Use of the crop plants and their produce, that is the वन सेकेंड, यस सॉरी, देयर इकोनॉमिक यूज क्या है, कौन सा पार्ट यूज है, उसी के हिसाब से yes, they are grown for that economic part only. Like paddy grow करते हैं हम लोग rice के लिए, that is economic part. Sugar cane grow करते हैं, what is economic part? That is for the sugar, right? So for different uses, economic uses, we grow them. So that is the first kind of classification. Second हो गया हमारा ontogeny, that is life cycle, वो annual है, biannual है, उस तरह से, ठीक है. थर्ड आता है हमारा बोटेनिकल क्लासिफिकेशन के बेसिस पे, ठीक है. फोर्थ आता है मोड ऑफ पॉलिनेशन, किस तरह का पॉलिनेशन हो रहा है. फिफ्थ आता है हमारा सीजन्स के ऊपर. सिक्स्थ हमारा क्लाइमेट के ऊपर. सेवेंथ डेप्थ एंड टाइप ऑफ रूट सिस्टम के ऊपर. कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड फिक्सेशन C3 C4 कैम, ऑल दिस. न्यूट्रिएंट अपटेक, किस तरह से न्यूट्रिएंट उनका अपटेक है, जैसे कि वो आर देयर रेस्टोरेटिव क्रॉप्स और एग्जॉस्टिव क्रॉप्स. एग्जॉस्टिव वो है जैसे कि आपके सीरियल्स, जितना भी आप न्यूट्रिशन सॉइल में डालेंगे वो बिल्कुल ले लेंगे, राइट. बट व्हेन इट कम्स टू restorative crops, legume family members, they try to restore the fertility of the crop. How? By fixing the atmospheric nitrogen, right? So इस तरह के
पेंसिल पेन जो ना आपको प्लेन पेपर भी पे
yes, I'm not able to understand, sorry. Hello.
पेंसिल पेन गाना आपको
Thank you.
Okay. Next comes the classification of field crops based on special. आज हम लोग इतना देखेंगे.
अच्छा अच्छा
सबसे पहले the classification of field crops based on the use of crops and their produce, that is their economic part. उसका economic part क्या है, what is that we are using, based on that there are various types again, ठीक है. Cereal crops, all that in a simple. See, when it comes to agriculture, many a times I have seen that students बहुत confused होते, इतना ज़्यादा content होता है, they get confused especially when it comes to definitions, when it comes to concepts. एक छोटा सा आप लोग यहाँ पे केयर ले सकते हैं. whenever you are going through any concepts, new concepts or new topics of agriculture, जब भी वो पढ़ेंगे, try to highlight the keywords. ओके, फॉर एग्जाम्पल यहाँ सीरियल क्रॉप्स है. सीरियल क्रॉप्स में कीवर्ड क्या है उसके, स्टार्ची ग्रेन्स, ठीक है, मतलब दे आर रिच इन स्टार्च, कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स. पल्स क्रॉप्स, दे आर रिच इन प्रोटीन, ठीक है. उस तरह से जो कीवर्ड्स है, इफ यू कैन एटलीस्ट रिमेंबर दोज वर्ड्स, अगर क्वेश्चन में आ भी गया तो इट वुड बी वेरी इजी फॉर यू टू आंसर दैट क्वेश्चन, ठीक है. कहीं पे भी कॉन्सेप्ट्स होते हैं तो डेफिनेटली फोकस ऑन योर कीवर्ड्स. विद दिस यू कैन बहुत ज्यादा कंटेंट भी आप आराम से याद कर सकते हो. रिकॉल, द रिकॉल वैल्यू विल गो हाई, ठीक है. थर्ड आता है हमारा ऑयल सीड क्रॉप्स, which give us oil seeds that can be again edible or inedible. I'll give you or detailed notes in the coming slides. ये तो सिर्फ highlights है. Fiber crops, that they give us fiber. Sugar crops, again for sugar. Commercial crops which are grown exclusively for marketing purpose only. Forage crops for livestock. Green manure crops for improving the fertility of the soil in a natural manner. Spices and spices crops, actually condiments crops नहीं होते हैं. These are over the table items. We'll discuss that as well. Okay, now the first one, cereal crops. As I've said earlier also, cereals, they have edible starchy grains, and bulk of the staple crops in the all over the world, they are cereals only. Now when we talk about cereals, again it is divided or classified into two major types: the major cereal crops and the millets. Major cereal crops, these are little bit large grained, okay, and used as a staple food. And the second is the millets. These are the small grained cereals which are of minor importance as a food, and they have a single cover. When we talk about major cereal crops, they have two covers, lemma and pale, ये दोनों होते हैं ना उसमें covering में, but in millets it would be of single cover, seed cover जो होता है. Again, millets can be classified into two major types: major millets and minor millets. Major millets are those वो abundantly we grow and in the large quantities we grow them. Okay. And it is no, when farmers take up the taking up with these major millets, they generally go for proper irrigation, because without irrigation it would be little bit difficult to harvest good crop. ठीक है, जनरली मिलेट्स मतलब कि हम लोग ये है कि they can be even grown in those areas where there is water scarcity, but still major millets के लिए at least 1 or 2 irrigations are required. माइनर मिलेट्स के लिए नो नीड ऑफ एनी नो एक्स्ट्रा इरिगेशन, जो स्टार्टिंग में जो रेसिडियल मॉइस्चर है उसमें भी वो ग्रो कर सकते हैं, एंड दिस आर जनरली यूज्ड एज फॉडर एंड हाईली न्यूट्रिशनल इन कंटेंट. ठीक है. एंड मेजर मिलेट्स एग्जांपल बाजरा, पर्ल मिलेट, रागी, sorghum, जवार एंड ऑल दैट दे फॉल अंडर दैट. माइनर मिलेट्स में आपको कोडो मिलेट, प्रोसो मिलेट, फॉक्सटेल मिलेट, लिटिल मिलेट, बार्नयार्ड मिलेट, ये सारे इसमें आते हैं आपके. ठीक है. एंड यू नो द वन ऑफ द मेजर एक और डिफरेंस है व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट मेजर सीरियल क्रॉप्स एंड द मिलेट्स. वो क्या है कि व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट द मेजर सीरियल क्रॉप्स, इनका जो स्ट्रॉ होता है आफ्टर हार्वेस्टिंग, वॉट एवर द स्ट्रॉ दैट इज लेफ्ट ओवर, दैट इज नॉट नो it is no palatable for the animals because of the high silica content in their leaves. That's the reason जो हम लोग हर बार सुनने को मिलता है आप लोगों को कि एनसीआर, पंजाब, हरियाणा, इस जगह में वॉट एवर द leftover straw is there of paddy and all that, they are burnt because वो animals भी खा नहीं सकते. Even if they want to feed them, they have to process them. Okay, process them, only then they can be fed to the animals, otherwise directly no. But when it comes to millet crops, whatever the straw that is generated, that can be fed to the animals. बिल्कुल eco friendly wastage भी नहीं होता है. And second thing, कई बार ऐसा होता है कि even if the crop fails, sometimes because they're already grown in drought conditions, and कई बार there is a chance that crop can fail. In that cases also, whatever the straw or whatever the that biomass that is generated, that can be fed to the animals. So इसमें बिल्कुल wastage बहुत कम रहता है, very less water they can be grown even after crop failure also, nothing can go waste, the biomass generated can be fed to the animals. ये सब है यूज व्हाट यू कैन से बेनिफिट्स और यूजेस ऑफ मिलेट्स. नेक्स्ट आता है हमारा पल्सेस, ग्रेन लेग्यूम्स दैट कैन बी यूज्ड एज फूड, एंड द वर्ड लेग्यूम इज derived from Latin word legere, which means to gather. What is it gathering? It is gathering atmospheric nitrogen and fixing that in the soil, thereby making it available to the plants. ठीक है. विद द हेल्प ऑफ राइजोबियम बैक्टीरिया, अगेन वो सिम्बायोसिस है. प्लांट मिनरल न्यूट्रिशन में वो और डिटेलली हम लोग कवर करेंगे. ठीक है. Now, this is very important in crop rotations and crop mixtures. Why? Because when we talk about cereals, they are exhaustive crops. But when it comes to pulses, they are restorative crops, and that will help restore the fertility of the soil. इसीलिए हम लोग cereals के साथ साथ pulses को अगर crop rotation में डाल के करेंगे तो that will be highly beneficial to the soil. And this जो भी नाइट्रोजन वो यूज करे, दैट ऑल वुड बी अगेन यूज, जो भी उनके प्रोडक्ट प्रोड्यूस है उसमें आता है इन द फॉर्म ऑफ पल्सेस, एंड दैट हैज हाई प्रोटीन कंटेंट विच इज रिगार्डेड एज द बिल्डिंग ब्लॉक्स. ओके, इम्पॉर्टेंट. नेक्स्ट आता है हमारा टाइप्स ऑफ पल्सेस. देयर आर अगेन वेरियस टाइप्स ऑफ पल्स क्रॉप्स. एक तो है ग्राम्स. these are those इनके सीड्स हम लोग बहुत ही लॉन्ग टाइम तक स्टोर कर सकते हैं एंड यूज फॉर कमर्शियल पर्पसेस. ऑल योर दाल्स, okay, they fall under this Bengal gram, black gram, red gram, green gram, horse gram, they all fall under this grams category, and these are such seeds that can be stored for a longer period of time. Okay. Next आते हैं beans. इसमें क्या है, इसमें both the beans can be used as a fresh vegetable or they can be dried and stored for longer usage, like your cluster bean, guar seeds हम लोग store करते हैं ना, and the guar gum that we extract, that is used in your noodles and all that. French bean, soy bean, field bean, all these, they can be either consumed in a fresh manner or they can be stored for a longer use. Next आता है peas. Now this is completely एक different class of legumes है, and they belong to specific genus. Oh sorry, specific genus called peas. Okay, उनका न्यूट्रिशनल वैल्यू बिल्कुल हाई है, and at the same time the fiber content in peas, this class of legumes is very high when compared to beans and grams. And moreover, the kind of amino acids that are present, the essential amino acids that are more in peas when compared to beans and grams, इसलिए हम लोग बोलते हैं बिल्कुल different class which is of highly nutritional value. Majorly दो plants आते हैं इसमें, pea and cowpea. ठीक है, सबके फोटोज भी मैंने यहाँ लगा रखा है. नेक्स्ट आता है हमारा ऑयल सीड क्रॉप्स. ठीक है, ऑयल सीड, द नेम इटसेल्फ सजेस्ट ऑयल के लिए हम लोग ग्रो करते हैं, एंड दीज आर रिच इन फैटी एसिड्स. एंड देयर आर टू काइंड्स ऑफ ऑयल सीड क्रॉप्स, वन इज द एडिबल ऑयल सीड क्रॉप्स एंड द सेकंड इज नॉन एडिबल ऑयल सीड क्रॉप्स. Edible oil seed crops that we can consume, like your peanuts, soybeans, sunflower, safflower, all these. Non edible, like your karanja, castor, mahua, these are not, it's not that they're non edible, but very minute quantities we can consume, like your castor seeds, right, because it's highly laxative. दूसरा, they can be used in lamps, etc. Next आता है हमारा fiber crops. Now when we talk about fiber crops, the name itself suggests we extract fiber from them, okay, which is mainly used for clothing, rope making, carpet making, and other purpose. And there are three types of fiber crops based on the plant part from which it is extracted. ठीक है, one is the fruit fibers. From the fruit we extract the fiber, that is cotton, silk cotton. के fruit से हम लोग cotton लेते हैं ना, fiber. Stem or stalk or bast fibers, that we extract the fibers from its stems, okay, like your jute, mesta, linseed, flax, etc. Third type आता है leaf fibers or hard fibers. Now these are extracted from the leaves of the plant, like your sisal, manila hemp, etc. From the leaves we extract the fiber, again used for various things like your rope making, dress making, cloth making, carpet making, etc. Okay, this is the agave. सीसल प्लांट ये हो गया हमारा मिस्ता. ठीक है, एंड दिस इज कॉटन. नेक्स्ट आता है हमारा शुगर क्रॉप्स ग्रोन फॉर द प्रोडक्शन ऑफ शुगर्स एंड स्टार्च, लाइक योर शुगर केन, शुगर बीट, एक्सेट्रा. नेक्स्ट आता है हमारा कमर्शियल क्रॉप्स. नाउ हियर व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट कमर्शियल क्रॉप्स, मोर देन 75% ऑफ द प्रोड्यूस इज फॉर ट्रेड ओनली बट नॉट फॉर होम कंजम्पशन. इन सच केसेस दोज क्रॉप्स कैन बी कॉल्ड एज कमर्शियल क्रॉप्स. Okay, like sugar cane, cotton, tobacco, even paddy also, that also can be grown commercially, right? Cash crops हम लोग इनको बोल सकते हैं, sugar cane, cotton, tobacco, these are not edible, okay. But commercial crops which जहाँ पे भी more than 75% or even the complete produce is sent for market only, okay, not for home consumption, you can call them commercial crops. Okay, hope I'm able to make a point here. Commercial crops, cash crops. Okay, next आता है हमारे forage crops. Again, this is for the livestock, grown for vegetative matter, be it fresh or preserved, and that can be fed to the animals, like includes fodder. Fresh, when it is cut fresh and fed to the animals, it's called fodder. Hay, it is dried form. After cutting, they'll dry it up and provide it to the animal, or on the soil in the field itself they dry it and feed to the animals. Silage, now this is a small, these crops like this maize, legumes, etc. What they are done is they'll chop into small pieces and store in the anaerobic conditions, and that fermented produce, that is called as silage, again that can be fed to the animals. Again, this is generally done during glut season. Whatever the excess जो भी एक्सेस फॉडर मिलता है उसको वो साइलेज में कन्वर्ट कर देते हैं, ओके, एंड देन ड्यूरिंग लीन सीजन्स वो एनिमल्स को खिला देते हैं. एंड लास्ट आता है पैस्चर्स, दैट इज डायरेक्ट फीडिंग. जैसे ग्रास लैंड ऐसे कुछ है तो डायरेक्टली ले जाके वहाँ पे पैस्चर्स पे they'll feed the animals. So these are the various types under forage crops, how they are fed to the animals. ठीक है, green manure crops, again these are used, the plant tissues, because of their highly nutritional value, the plant tissues itself are plowed into the soil so as to improve the soil productivity. Again, green manure crops में दो तरह से है, ex situ and in situ. ठीक है, ex situ crop क्या है, जैसे कि कोई sun hemp या देंचा है, they'll cut that leaves, okay, they'll harvest the leaves, they spread it on the soil and then plow it into the soil. ठीक है, this way they are trying to improve the fertility of the soil. In situ क्या है, they grow the crop there. For example, cowpea है, leguminaceae family. After the harvest of cowpea, rather than removing the entire stalks, etc., what they do is they plow back the entire plant into the soil, thereby improving the soil fertility. So that is in situ green manuring. So these are the green manuring that is done so as to improve the fertility. For that only they are grown actually. Next आता है हमारा spice crops. These are those products of the plant that add flavor to the food whenever that is added while cooking. Okay, like your ginger, garlic. Ginger में क्या है उसका राइजोम यूज होता है, राइट? गार्लिक में उसके लीफ शीट जो उसमें स्टोर करता है, टर्मरिक अगेन राइजोम. सो डिफरेंट प्लांट पार्ट्स. ओके, जैसे कि हमारा क्लव है उसका बड, फ्लावर बड, उस तरह से डिफरेंट प्लांट पार्ट्स दे आर यूज्ड टू प्रोवाइड फ्लेवर टू द फूड एंड समटाइम्स इवन कलर to the freshly made food or the preserved food. So these are the spices crops. ठीक है. Now as I've said, these are all the classification of field crops based on the crop plants and their produce. ठीक है. And this is a quick recap as you can see here. Yes, hope you are able to understand this. If कहीं पे भी doubt आता है तो please okay, keep on asking me. I'll be more than happy to look into your queries. So अभी तक
तो
हमारा सिर्फ यही हुआ है.
मैम
Yes sir.
मैम आई वांट टू हमको वो जानना था वो मिलेट्स का कैन यू शो द स्लाइड अगेन अबाउट दैट
Yeah, 1 second.
या माइनर एंड मेजर मिलेट्स
Yes, देखिए.
Yeah, ma'am, in this millets, I can't see about that etle millets, na? Quakes, lacruma, jobi, the job tier millets.
Oh, okay, that is specifically grown in Northeast.
Yeah. So I was confused. Will it
Okay.
come under major or minor? Like in major, I can see that that finger millets, na?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and in our Northeast region, with finger millets, we used to cultivate them. Like we used to cultivate them together, like kind of mixed cropping.
Yes, in mixed cropping. Yes, in Northeast, they take up, I think, this one with legumes, they take them up. Black gram, right?
Okay.
Black gram or green gram, they take up along with the major millets.
Finger millets and
Mm-hmm.
millets come under minor millets. So fox ayak. Finger it's medium. Okay. Oh, okay. Now I got it. Yeah, minor foxtail millet. Yeah, it needs irrigation. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Yes, let's move to the next classification. Yes, and that is based on the seasons. Okay, now when we talk about seasons, there are 3 major seasons in which crops can be grown. Seasonal, that is your kharif crops, rabi crops, and summer or zayed crops. ठीक है? Now, here what I have done is I have given this in the form of table so that आपका revision के लिए बहुत easy हो जाए बाद में. As you can see here, for each type of crops, there is a sowing season and harvesting season. When we talk about kharif crops, they are grown or sown between June and July and they're harvested between September and October. Sometimes it might go beyond that also or less than that also based on the duration of the crop. अगर short duration है, long duration है, medium duration, based on that they can, but again that will be taken care of as per the requirement and the demand in the market. Now, they require warm, wet weather during their major period of growth, but when it comes to flowering, they require shorter day length. See, whenever, because this, at the, winter आते आते इनका flowering शुरू होती है. That's the reason they require shorter day length. Rice, maize, castor, groundnut, all these fall under kharif crops. Rabi crops, when we look at it, sowing season would be October to November and harvesting season would be March to April. And these require cold, dry weather for the majority of their growth period. That is a vegetative growth. Flowering ke liye again, they require longer day length for their flowering. Wheat, mustard, barley, oats, all these fall under this. Even coal crops, what we say, that also fall under this Rabi crops only. समर और जायद क्रॉप्स जो फेब में जनरली सोइंग सीजन होती है, इनकी हार्वेस्टिंग सीजन मई जून में होता है एंड दे रिक्वायर वार्म ड्राई वेदर एंड अगेन दे रिक्वायर द लॉन्गर डे लेंथ्स फॉर देयर फ्लावरिंग. एग्जांपल ब्लैक ग्राम, ग्रीन ग्राम से सेम cowpea, etc. They all fall under this. Okay. Next आता है हमारा ontogeny based on the life cycle. There are three major types of crops. One is annual crops. The name itself suggests within one season or 1 year itself they complete their life cycle and die. Okay. Biennial crops 2 years. First season generally they focus on their vegetative growth. Second year generally they flower and fruit. Third आता है हमारे perennial. The name itself suggests they live for 3 or more years. See annual crops में पैडी राइस जो जनरली जो फील्ड क्रॉप्स होते हैं दे ऑल फॉल अंडर एक्चुअली एनुअल क्रॉप्स ओनली. देर आर फ्यू काइंड्स ऑफ क्रॉप्स दैट फॉल अंडर बाइएनियल क्रॉप्स. वन ऑफ द बेसिक एग्जांपल यहाँ पे जो है बीट रूट और द शुगर बीट, ये एक्चुअली बाइएनियल है. इन द फर्स्ट सीजन दे वेजिटेटिव ग्रोथ होता है. इन द सेकेंड सीजन वॉट एवर द ड्यूरिंग दैट वेजिटेटिव ग्रोथ द टैप रूट एंड ऑल दैट इट स्टोर्स द फूड इन दैट. ओके, बट आफ्टर that in the second season they use the same stored food materials and they go for reproduction, that is flowers and seeds production. But यहाँ पे economic part क्या है इसमें sugar beet में हमारा ये tap root ही है the stored food materials वाला tap root. So generally they though ontogenically sugar beet is a biennial crop, commercially it is grown as annual crop. ऐसे कई सारे crops है, so you have to be careful for such kind of questions where ऑन्टोजेनिकली ग्रो उनका अलग रहता है साइकिल एंड कमर्शियली ग्रोइंग अलग रहता है. ठीक है. पेरेनियल क्रॉप्स में जैसे योर फॉडर ग्रासेस, कोकोनट, ऑल टी, कॉफी, ऑल दैट दे आर पेरेनियल क्रॉप्स वेयर मोर देन 3 और मोर इयर्स दे गो फॉर एक फ्लश आ गया हमने हार्वेस्ट कर दिया, अगेन दे गो फॉर अनदर फ्लश लाइक दैट. उनका एज भी रहता है 60 years to 70 years एंड अगेन इट ऑल डिपेंड्स ऑन द काइंड ऑफ प्लांट और द क्रॉप. ठीक है. Next comes हमारा botanical classification. Based on that, 2 major types are there, that is monocots and dicots. Monocots क्या है? They have a single cotyledon. It is the embryonic leaf, the first embryonic leaf that comes after the germination. The first in that is called cotyledon, and here in this case there is a single cotyledon, and they have parallel venation, that is जो भी vascular bundles pass करते हैं in the leaves, the venation would be parallel in nature. Floral parts are often in multiples of 3. Vascular bundles, that is what are the vascular bundles? Again xylem plus phloem, right? So these are scattered throughout the stem. एक correct एक pattern में नहीं रहता है, and they have fibrous root system. Okay. Next आता है हमारा dicots, 2 cotyledons, branched venation, floral parts often multiples of 4 or 5, vascular bundles are arranged in rings. यही rings बाद में annual rings बनते हैं as per the aging. That helps us in understanding the aging of the trees also. And इनका होता है taproot. And ये सारे examples है monocotyledons like Gramineae, Liliaceae, etc. Dicotyledons like Leguminaceae, Malvaceae, Linnaeaceae, Solanaceae. All these families they fall under the dicots. ठीक है. Now when we talk about the botanical classification, इसमें सबसे important है हमारे लिए how what you'll say the kind of pollination, how that happens. So here when we talk about the classification, Carolus Linnaeus is a Swedish botanist who actually was responsible for this binomial system of classification where we have genus and species. Okay, and उसके बाद subspecies, varieties and all that. Okay, in that we have already seen the dicotyledons and monocotyledons here. Okay, next आता है, I'm not going to go very deep into that because as per the classification this much is required. ठीक है. When we look into the other aspects of classification आगे, in that we'll look into the detailed notes. Okay, next comes the mode of pollination, but before the mode of pollination एक बार pollination का definition भी देख लेते हैं. Now it is act of transferring the pollen grains from the male anther of a flower to the female stigma. As you can see here, this is a pistil that has stigma, style and ovary. This is the female parts, and stamen, anther and filament, this is the male parts. Whenever the pollen from the stamen it falls onto the stigma, pollen tube germinate होता है. That pollen tube carries the nucleus till here and it fertilizes the ovule. This ovule will develop into the seed, and the ovary in which these ovules are embedded, generally they grow into the fruit. That is in horticulture, otherwise seeds are only there in field crops. Now when we talk about the mode of pollination, there are 3 major types of pollination. One, naturally self-pollinated crops, that is the same flower, the pollen would fertilize the ovule and the seed is generated, like your rice, moose pulses, okra, tobacco, etc. Naturally cross-pollinated. So the pollen of one flower will pollinate the ovule of the other flower. Okay, naturally cross-pollination, corn, many other grasses and all that. Why? Because sometimes they are unisexual flowers or imperfect flowers. That is, only one sex would be there, either female or male. Both self and cross-pollination also occurs in few plants like your cotton, sorghum, etc. ठीक है, यहाँ पे examples बहुत important है. See, when we talk about unisexual flowers, it is where we have a single sex, that is either female flowers or male flowers, like your pumpkin, papaya. We say no, वो male plant है इसलिए fruits नहीं आ रहे हैं उस तरह से. Bisexual, they have both stamens and pistil, so that is a bisexual. ओके ये हो गया हमारा. नेक्स्ट आता है हमारा क्लासिफिकेशन बेस्ड ऑन द bearing of flowers, whether male and female. Monoecious plants are those a single plant that bears both male and female flowers. So like your corn, cucurbit. Corn हम देखते हैं ना ऊपर tassel और नीचे वो that flowers. And dioecious, here it has distinct male and female plants. Complete male plant separate, female plant separate. मतलब उतने वही flowers आते हैं उनमें. That is unisexual flowers. So based on that, unisexual, bisexual only, you can classify this field crops. ठीक है. तीसरा आता है हमारा मोड ऑफ पॉलिनेशन में द काइंड ऑफ एजेंट दैट हेल्प्स इन पॉलिनेशन. जनरली क्रॉस पॉलिनेशन के लिए ही एप्लीकेबल है. व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट द मोड्स ऑफ पॉलिनेशन और द एजेंट्स दैट आर यूज्ड फॉर पॉलिनेशन, abiotic type and biotic. Abiotic, there is no life but still they help in pollination, like your wind, anemophily it's called. You say wind, transferring the pollen from one plant to another plant. Water, this is called as hydrophily. These two are the abiotic factors or agents that help in pollination. Now there are biotic factors or the agents that help in pollination, like your birds. Okay, entomophily, entomophily is insects. Reptiles, mammals. Yes, mammals also help while moving the fur, in that the pollen can get attached and then that can transfer to other plants. So yes, so birds, reptiles, mammals, insects, these are the biotic, that is live organisms, living organisms helping in the pollination. Especially all these fall under cross pollination. Okay, now classification of field crops based on the depth of the root. There are various types, like, because why depth of root is important? See, based on the understanding of the depth of root only, one has to go for tillage operations. If the depth of the root is very deep, like your alfalfa, okay, or your red gram, जिनका रूट बहुत डीप तक जाता है, इन दैट केस द टिलेज ऑपरेशंस दैट आर कंडक्टेड दैट आल्सो शुड बी डीपर. ओके, वो टिलेज ऑपरेशंस में हम देखेंगे किस तरह का टिलेज है, डीप टिलेज, शैलो टिलेज एंड ऑल दैट. Okay, shallow roots. Here the root system of these crops to a depth of 1 meter only, like your wheat, barley, rye, etc. Intermediate, these are the root system of this crop ranges from 1 to 1.5 meters. मतलब यहाँ से इतने डिस्टेंस तक, ये 1 to 1.5 meters for intermediate, और shallow root के लिए up to 1 meter, deep rooted के लिए more than 1.5 meters, etc. Okay, faba bean, sugar beet are examples of the intermediate crops. Even maize also. यहाँ पे wheat, barley, rye. बिल्कुल. Cereals generally they have, जहाँ पे भी fibrous roots होते हैं, there they are shallow rooted crops. जहाँ पे भी generally tap root and all that होता है, dicots, generally they are intermediate and deep rooted crops. Okay, and this helps us in understanding the kind of tillage operations to be performed. Next आता है based on the climate. Now based on the climate, that is your temperate crops, that is cold countries, and here they grow in latitudes between 30 degrees north and 40 degrees south. Okay, if we look at the latitude, so based on that, वहाँ पे बहुत cold conditions होते हैं, chilling temperatures also they can manage, like your wheat, oat, rye, etc. Tropical zone crops, here they need warm conditions, they can't grow frost is there, they can't survive there, and these grow in latitudes between 20 degrees north and 20 degrees south. And here the normal growth is affected by temperatures below 10 degrees, they can't survive on that. वही temperate में even 7 degrees or even 60 degrees, मतलब even less than that also, sometimes chilling or frost conditions also few crops can survive. So these are the examples of tropical zone crops. Subtropical zone crops, they can tolerate some sub-freezing, but not much. And again, they grow in latitudes between, this is very, very important location. Okay, between 25 degrees north and 40 degrees south. यहाँ पे अगर below 7 degrees हो गया मतलब they cannot survive. Otherwise यहाँ पे जो temperature they can survive, but these cannot survive. Okay, citrus date, fig, pomegranate. And beauty is that we have all these in our country. That is based on the agroclimatic zone classification. जब करेंगे ना, then we'll see we have got 15 agroclimatic zones, and we have got temperate, tropical, subtropical, all kinds of agroclimatic zones in India. ठीक है. So this is about the classification of field crops based on the climate. Now classification of field crops based on photosynthesis. अगर basic definition देखा जाएगा photosynthesis as if they are, the plants are cooking their own food. Now what are the ingredients for cooking? They use carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. They generate the glucose and they release oxygen as well as part of that. Okay, this is nothing but the carbon fixation or the carbon assimilation that helps in converting the inorganic carbon, that is carbon dioxide, into organic compounds, which is called as photosynthesis. Photolight synthesis, that is synthesizing their food, it is in the presence of light. So these are the ingredients that we have seen, and accordingly photosynthesis occurs. When we do crop physiology or the plant physiology, in that we'll be looking into in a very detailed manner various steps associated with photosynthesis, transpiration, evapotranspiration, etc., even respiration as well. Okay, now when we talk about photosynthesis, as I've said, chlorophyll is one pigment, in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, the photosynthesis occurs. Now, what is chlorophyll? It is a green pigment that is present in plants that help in absorbing that sunlight. See, when we talk about chlorophylls, there are 5 types of chlorophylls, but majorly in plant kingdom, we can see chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B, which are the two most common types of chlorophylls present. Now, these are the green pigments, and these are the molecular formulas that I have mentioned again here. These are insoluble in water, and they can be extracted only with the help of organic solvents such as acetone, petroleum ether, alcohol, etc. So, and next is, these are one kind of pigments. Another kind of pigments is carotenoids, which includes carotenes, that is orange pigment, and xanthophylls, yellow. And these xanthophylls are also called as carotenols. And generally जो हमारे क्या बोलते हैं ornamental plants etc. and flowers etc. in that you'll find these carotenoids, and these are insoluble in water and again can be extracted through organic solvents only. Third type of pigments आते हैं phycobilins, that includes again phycocyanins, blue in color, phycoerythrines generally reddish in color, allophycocyanin generally ये brownish in color होते हैं, this pigmentation color, and blue green algae ये सब जो बोलते हैं ना, in that you'll find these pigments. But majorly when we talk about photosynthesis, it is a chlorophyll that plays a vital role in photosynthesis. ठीक है. Now chlorophyll कहाँ रहता है in plants? It is in chloroplast, which is an organelle that is present in the plants, and this aid in photosynthesis and found in the chloroplast, and this is a specialized part of the cell. Again you must be wondering, ये हम लोग फिर डिटेलली करेंगे chloroplast का when we do the physiology, क्योंकि physiology में ये सारे फिर we have to do. So here only basic things I am touching because we are focusing more on the classification. So here we want to know more about the carbon assimilation, how it is done. That is based on that there are C3, C4 and CAM plants, crossylation acid metabolism plants. So but these are the ingredients that are used in photosynthesis. So थोड़ा सा मैंने introduction दे दिया है यहाँ पे. Now photo light, what is the light wavelength that is used, that can be used in photosynthesis? That is the photosynthetically active radiation, and the wavelength it is 400 to 700 nanometers, as you can see here. यहाँ से यहाँ पे जो visible light आता है, this only would be helpful for photosynthesis. Beyond this, far red light or the infrared, and beyond this it is ultraviolet radiation. These cannot be utilized by the plant for photosynthesis. So whatever the visible light that is there, only that can be, that is, it can be blue light, green light and red light. That is why I have highlighted those pigments. Okay, that would be helpful in photosynthesis, and this is called as photosynthetically active radiation or PAR, which falls between 400 to 700 nanometers or 0.4 to 0.7 micrometers. Very, very important. Okay, now when we talk about photosynthesis as such, actually there are two major steps that you have to understand, and that is the light reaction and the dark reaction. Okay, see, mechanism of photosynthesis, it consists of two parts: light reaction or primary photochemical reaction, or Hill's reaction or Arnon cycle, and dark reaction or Blackman's reaction or path of carbon in photosynthesis. Based on this only, this dark reaction only, we classify plants into three major types: C3 cycle, C4 cycle and CAM cycle. Okay, now here in this case, as you can see here, reduction, it's an oxidation reduction process wherein water is oxidized, okay, and carbon dioxide is reduced, giving rise to carbohydrates plus oxygen using carbon dioxide plus water. So here water is reduced and oxidized, and carbon dioxide is reduced. Reduction process, oxidation process in simpler terms. Okay. Now, as I have said, from the dark reaction only, we have two major cycles, C3 cycle and C4 cycle. Based on that, the field crops can be classified into three major types: C3 plants, C4 plants and CAM plants. Okay. Now, when we talk about C3 plants, these are those plants, more than 80, almost 85% of the plant kingdom, they are C3 plants only. 3% of the plants in the plant kingdom, they are C4 plants. CAM plants 8, crassulacean acid metabolism, ये especially succulent plants के लिए है, or you can say xerophytes, desert plants. There you can find the CAM pathway. ठीक है. The type of photosynthesis that occur in C3 plants is C3 photosynthesis. In C4 plants, it is C4 photosynthesis, and CAM plants, it is CAM photosynthesis. Why C3, why C4 and all that? See, the first carbon compound formed while undergoing various reactions during photosynthesis, it is a 3-carbon compound in C3 photosynthesis, and it is a 4-carbon compound in C4 photosynthesis. Hence the name C3 and C4. Okay. Now, when we talk about the carbon dioxide fixation pathway, in C3 plants, it has only C3 cycle. But in C4 plants, it undergoes C3 cycle and C4 cycle. C4 cycle occurs in mesophyll cells, and C3 cycle occurs in the bundle sheath cells. Again, they are in the parts of the plant, or not a plant as such, leaves. Okay, so दोनों cycles होते हैं. That's the reason when we talk about C4 plants, they are very efficient carbon dioxide assimilators, we call them, because dual cycles they are having. So carbon dioxide का जो assimilation है, जो utilization है, वो सबसे बढ़िया होता है C4 plants में. Okay, and when we talk about CAM plants, there also via both C3 and C4 cycles, दोनों ही cycles चलते हैं. How? But here spatially, again in different parts of the same cell. So temporarily C4 night में होता है, C3 daytime में होता है. ठीक है. And stomatal movement when it comes to C3 plants, generally daytime में open होते हैं, night time में close होते हैं. Similarly is the case with C4, but xerophytes, the stomata open during the night and close during the daytime, so as to save that moisture. As you can see, temperate C3 plants generally temperate होते हैं, but some are tropical also. But when it comes to C4 plants, they are tropical and semi-tropical. Okay, and when we talk about CAM plants, it is desert or xeric habitat. And here there are examples. Just give me a second. Okay, यस, ये आपके एग्जाम्पल्स हैं। नाउ द बेसिक significant difference between the C3, C4 and CAM plants or C3 plants में the site of cycle is mesophyll, whereas C4 it is mesophyll and vacuole which is called as Cran's anatomy. ठीक है, ये हम लोग करेंगे जब photosynthesis करेंगे in detailed manner. CAM plants in mesophyll and vacuole again as I've said, C3 cycle दो अलग अलग times पे होते हैं ना, C4 during the night time and C3 during the daytime. First is stable compound in C3 plants is PGA, phosphoglyceric acid, and this is a 3-carbon compound. And in C4 plants, it is oxaloacetic acid, and it is a 4-carbon compound. And here both are generated. Carbon dioxide acceptor in case of C3 plants, it is ribulose biphosphate, and in case of C4 plants, it is phosphoenol pyruvate, and again in CAM plants, it is a phosphoenol pyruvate. Photosynthetic rate, it is medium in C3 plants, स्लो इन कैम प्लांट्स, बट इट इज़ वेरी हाई क्योंकि ड्यूअल होता है एंड साइमल्टेनियसली होता है, अनलाइक इन आप बोल सकते हो मैम यू हैव सेड दैट सी कैम प्लांट्स में भी C3 साइकिल होता है, C4 साइकिल होता है, बट साइमल्टेनियसली इट इज हैपनिंग, वन इन ड्यूरिंग डे टाइम, वन ड्यूरिंग नाइट टाइम, बट इन C4 plant simultaneously they keep on happening, because of which the carbon dioxide assimilation would be double, almost a double when compared to the C3 and CAM plants. ठीक है, that's why high photosynthetic rays. Photo respiration, it is high in this case but low in this case, in both these cases. Okay, transpiration rate, it is high in this case, medium and low in this case. Water use efficiency, this is low, medium and high, as you can see. Biomass production, medium in case of C3, because उसी जितना photosynthetic rate होगा उसी के basis पे उनका biomass production होगा, right? C4 plants, the biomass production is very high. Okay, and when it comes to CAM plants, it is low. Light saturation point, it is low, it is high, they use it huge manner, it is medium again. ठीक है, this is very very important, the differences between C3, C4 and CAM plants. One second. Okay, now we have seen lot of classification of field crops based on various factors. एक और factor है वो है special purpose, that is you can't put them these classification जो भी हम लोग classify करेंगे under जो भी अभी तक हमने किया है, so special purpose करके कई सारे जो different types of field crops है वो मैं यहाँ पे highlight कर रही हूँ. One is the alley crops, that is generally agroforestry, as you can see here. जैसे ये forestry trees है which is very most commonly north east में भी ये बहुत चलता है. The trees in between, whatever the alleys that they are formed, in that they'll grow the arable crops. Arable crops nothing but the field crops or annual crops. So this is called as alley cropping. Next आता है आपका augmenting crops, majorly grown to supplement the yield of main crops. Okay, so like your Japanese mustard with berseem, तो उनका जो generally these legumes, nutritious restorative crops, they are grown along with the exhaustive crops, so that the fertility status can be maintained, that will augment the growth of the other crops. ठीक है, एवेन्यू क्रॉप्स जनरली फेंसेस इस तरह से वो करते हैं, लाइक PGNP, ग्लाइरिसीडिया, या फिर समटाइम्स इवन सैफलर ऑल्सो. ओके, लॉन्ग फार्म रोड्स फेंसेस दे ग्रो, बिल्कुल कवर अप करने के लिए मेन लैंड को. बॉर्डर और गार्ड क्रॉप्स, here जो भी crop है in the center, in order to protect that, thorny plants are generally grown, like here in this case safflower is planted around the field of gram, so that trespassing can be avoided, trespassing of the animals to feed on that juicy this gram, Bengal gram, that can be avoided, they go for that. Cash crops, grown by the farmer primarily for sale to rather than his or her own use. And when we talk about cash crops, as I have said, completely marketing के लिए use होता है, and without processing them you can't consume that. Okay, commercial crops on the other hand, as I've said, उसमें edible, non edible सभी आते हैं उसमें. कैच और कंटिंजेंट क्रॉप, कई बार ऐसा होता है ना कि व्हेन दे ग्रो फॉर सम क्रॉप इट फेल्स, सो एक शॉर्ट ड्यूरेशन क्रॉप इमीडिएटली, अगर मेन क्रॉप फेल हो गए तो इमीडिएटली दे गो फॉर सम शॉर्ट ड्यूरेशन क्रॉप, सो एज टू अवॉइड एनी लॉस बाय द फार्मर, लाइक ग्रोइंग ऑफ लिनसीड, तोरिया, उड़द, मूंग, काउपी एक्सेट्रा, विच आर ऑफ शॉर्ट ड्यूरेशन, 2-3 months में वो कवर अप हो जाते हैं. कवर क्रॉप्स, now these are those crops primarily to improve on protecting the soil from erosion through their ground coverage foliage. See, as you can see here, यहाँ पे हमारा मेज है, तो यहाँ पे हम लोग कुछ भी ग्राउंड नट, उड़द, स्वीट पोटैटो, एनीथिंग कैन बी ग्रोन, सो दैट ये बिल्कुल कवर, फोलिएज से कवर हो जाए, देर दैट कैन प्रोटेक्ट फ्रॉम सॉइल इरोजन, अगर रेन भी हुआ है. सो द फर्स्ट स्टेप, दैट स्पिलिंग, that can be avoided here. Splash erosion can be avoided here. Majorly to protect soil protection के लिए these are used. Mulch crops. Again mulch crops में live mulching होती है या straw mulching होती है या plastic mulching होती है. Majorly this is to conserve moisture. Same crops like your cowpea, groundnut, sweet potato, they can be grown as mulch crops also. Okay, see यहाँ पे कवर क्रॉप्स, मल्च क्रॉप्स, स्मॉदर क्रॉप्स, इसलिए मैंने सब एक ही जगह पे डाला है. दो एग्जाम्पल्स आपको सेम मिलेंगे ऑलमोस्ट इन द 3 केसेस, बट द ऑब्जेक्टिव वुड बी डिफरेंट. ओके, कवर क्रॉप्स दे हेल्प इन प्रोटेक्टिंग द सॉइल from erosion. Mulch crops, they conserve the soil moisture through their ground covering foliage. Smaller crops, these are specialized cover crops only. They, because of their dense foliage, they'll not allow weed growth. So as you can see, तीनों में cowpea, udad and all that, they are common, but objective इनका different है. So please be very very careful. Cover crop का objective है soil erosion से बचाना. Mulching का वो है कि they'll protect soil moisture conservation. ये live mulch है. अगर इसी में straw पुराना last year crop का जो straw होता है, that also they can put it and use it as mulch, or they can go for plastic mulches as well, in either case. But here mulch crops. Smaller crops इतनी जल्दी जल्दी से वो आ जाते हैं एंड कवर द ग्राउंड, सो वीड्स को आने का मौका नहीं मिलता है. सो द स्मॉदर और सप्रेस द वीड ग्रोथ बिकॉज ऑफ द डेंस फोलिएज. ठीक है, नेक्स्ट आता है हमारा कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री. बोथ मेन एंड इंटरक्रॉप इज बेनिफिटेड बाय ईच अदर, लाइक योर लेग्यूम एंड अगर सीरियल करेंगे तो दे बेनिफिट, these legume crops benefit by improving the soil fertility. ओके सर, मैं अभी ये कंप्लीट करके देन आई विल वाइंड अप सर. अब फिर बीच में इट विल डजंट लुक नाइस. जस्ट गिव मी 5 minutes, आई विल वाइंड दिस अप. ओके, सो 1 second, वेयर इज माय पेन? हाँ, मिल गया. competitive crops, now these compete with each other. जैसे 2 cereals होता है, then you can't grow 2 cereals together. Okay, supplementary crops, such crops are neither complementary nor competitive. वो अपने अपने हिसाब से ग्रो करते रहते हैं and supplement each other. ठीक है, like your maize and cucurbits. Energy crop, these are low cost and low maintenance plants that can be used for making biofuels. Energy, we extract energy from them, like your sugarcane, potato, maize, tapioca. From that either biofuels भी use कर सकते हैं, or this straw can be directly exploited for its energy content. Okay, fowling crop. Now some cultural practices, they allow the infestation of weeds intensively. Direct seeded upland rice जो नॉर्थ ईस्ट में बहुत चलता है, नो दे स्प्रिंकल द राइस इन द फील्ड्स. ओके, एंड वो अपने आप से आते हैं डायरेक्टली ना. नॉर्मली राइस में, पैडी में क्या है, वी गो फॉर नर्सरी रेजिंग एंड देन विल ट्रांसप्लांट, राइट? बट अपलैंड राइस में जनरली इट इज डायरेक्ट सीडेड. नाउ दिस पर्टिकुलर कल्चरल प्रैक्टिस दैट अलाउज द इन्फेस्टेशन ऑफ वीड्स, ओके, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज फाउलिंग क्रॉप. नेक्स्ट आता है हमारा नर्स क्रॉप्स. जनरली दीज फोस्टर और नरिश द अदर क्रॉप्स. किस तरह से? बाय प्रोवाइडिंग शेड टू देम और प्रोवाइडिंग देम फ्रॉम फ्रॉस्ट और विंड. ओके, जो ये विंड शेल्टर बेल्स, विंड ब्रेक्स, ये सब दे ऑल फॉल अंडर नर्स क्रॉप्स ओनली बिकॉज दे आर नर्सिंग और हेल्पिंग द अदर क्रॉप्स टू सर्वाइव. Stimulate crops, these whatever the produce that we take from this crop, they stimulate the human body, like your tobacco, opium, something, it works on the nervous system, no? Those all fall under stimulate crops. Lay cropping. Now when we look at the crop rotation, every year agriculture year hota hai, right? From June to next year July. So ये जो agriculture year होता है, in that we have already seen that kharif crops, rabi crops, summer और zaid crops, right? Now इसी in rotation we keep on growing the crops. So in this only, if we incorporate any crop that is basically for livestock only, so any crop or combination of crops which is grown for either grazing or harvesting for immediate or future use of the livestock, that particular crop rotation is called as lay cropping. Okay, ये generally जहाँ पे भी livestock ज़्यादा होता है, the farmers go for this, and it also improves the soil fertility. trap crops grown to protect the main cash crop from certain pest. Example, no, cotton redbug. It is a common pest for both ladies finger and cotton. ठीक है, बट कॉटन यहाँ पे हमारे लिए कैश क्रॉप, कमर्शियल क्रॉप है, एंड इसका वैल्यूएशन भी हाई है. सो व्हाट द फार्मर डज इज ही कैन ग्रो द लेडी फिंगर, नो, 1 week or 10 days prior to sowing the cotton, they go for growing the lady finger either surrounding the field or in between the rows of the cotton. So when the red cotton red bug comes, उसको सबसे पहले ladies finger दिखता है. Once it infests that, the farmer will remove that, thereby protecting the cotton crop. जो 1 week 10 days के बाद जो sow करने की वजह से it's not ready for this bug to infest them. Okay, next आता है truck crops. Now these are the vegetable crops. Generally peri urban farming अगर सुना है तो आप, those crops they can be called under truck crops. So वहाँ पे grow करके they will send it to the main market. Generally nearest market जो होते हैं वहाँ पे truck से बेचते हैं. Large scale fresh shipment they do, and generally vegetable crops are grown in this case. ठीक है. Now before winding up, जैसे मैंने स्टार्टिंग में प्रॉमिस किया था, मैं आपको कुछ क्रॉप प्रोडक्शन स्टेप्स दिखाऊंगी विच विल हेल्प यू अ लॉट इन कंप्लीटली अंडरस्टैंड. जो भी एग्रीकल्चर है ये आप फॉलो करेंगे, इट वुड बी वेरी वेरी इजी फॉर यू. देखिए, व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट क्रॉप प्रोडक्शन सबसे पहले आता है लैंड और सॉइल प्रिपरेशन. बीट लेवलिंग, टिलिंग, प्लाविंग, प्रिपेयरिंग द सॉइल फॉर सोइंग, nursery making, all these fall under this first step, land or soil preparation. Once land or soil preparation is done, next क्या करेंगे हम लोग? Now it is the plant, the bed is ready, you will sow the seeds. So seeds, seed sowing, types of seed sowing, and all that, those are all, they all fall under this step. Okay, sowing of seeds. थर्ड हमारा आता है, नाउ वंस द सोइंग ऑफ सीड्स इज डन, नाउ नेक्स्ट आता है हमारा इरिगेशन. इरिगेशन तो करना ही है, right? So irrigation practices, kinds of pumps that can be used, types of irrigation methods, all these they fall under this particular step. Next आता है हमारा fertilization, that is plant growth measures, that is plant mineral nutrition. किस तरह से हम लोग फर्टिलाइज कर रहे हैं, व्हाट आर द काइंड ऑफ न्यूट्रिएंट्स दैट आर रिक्वायर्ड एंड ऑल दैट विल फॉल अंडर दिस. नेक्स्ट हमारा आता है स्टेप प्लांट प्रोटेक्शन मेजर्स. नाउ हमने इरिगेशन भी दे दिया, फर्टिलाइजेशन भी दे दिया, नाउ प्लांट्स आर ग्रोइंग वेल, नाउ यू हैव टू प्रोटेक्ट देम against various factors, like, so for which we'll have to control the pest, insects, weeds. So all that that plant protection measures, what are the various in इसी में हम लोग पढ़ सकते हैं plant pathology, plant entomology, plant protection, types of controlling weeding, types of weeding, weeders, all that. Next आता, पूरा हमने क्रॉप को अच्छे से कर लिया है. नाउ द क्रॉप इज रेडी फॉर हार्वेस्ट. नाउ व्हाट आर द वेरियस हार्वेस्टिंग मेथड्स, वो सब हम लोग इसमें करेंगे. एंड लास्ट, एक बार हार्वेस्ट होने के बाद भी वी हैव टू टेक केयर ऑफ द पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट प्रोड्यूस, राइट? हाउ विल स्टोरेज, व्हाट आर द वेरियस काइंड्स ऑफ स्टोरेज स्ट्रक्चर्स, एंड पेरिशेबिलिटी क्या है, व्हाट आर द लेटेस्ट टेक्नोलॉजीज दैट वी कैन यूज इन हैंडलिंग दीज पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट प्रोड्यूस, वो सब हम इसमें करेंगे. इफ यू कैन रिमेंबर दीज क्रॉप प्रोडक्शन स्टेप्स, ये आपके लिए बहुत ईजी रहेगा एग्रीकल्चर को समझने के लिए. एंड वन मोर इम्पॉर्टेंट पॉइंट, व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट एग्रीकल्चर इंजीनियरिंग, ये स्टेप्स आप याद रखेंगे तो आपको इम्प्लीमेंट्स, मतलब सबसे पहले लैंड और सॉइल प्रिपरेशन, अच्छा लेवलिंग के लिए ये इम्प्लीमेंट्स, टिलेज के लिए ये इम्प्लीमेंट्स, लैंड प्रिपरेशन के लिए इम्प्लीमेंट्स, ऑल दैट यू लुक इनटू दैट. फ्रॉम दैट, सोइंग ऑफ सीड्स, किस तरह के ड्रिलिंग मशीन्स यूज करते हैं, मैनुअल किस तरह से होता है सोइंग एंड ऑल दैट. इरिगेशन प्रैक्टिसेस, व्हाट आर द काइंड्स ऑफ इरिगेशन पंप्स that has to be used, what are the irrigation methods, उसके लिए क्या क्या implements या equipment useful है. fertilization, इन दोनों के लिए तो majorly what kind of pumps that are used, okay, all that. weeds के लिए what kind of weeders we'll use, manual, and now all that you will come across. harvesters, types of harvesters, storage, किस तरह के storage use कर सकते हैं, traditional, अभी बहुत ज़्यादा latest models भी आ रहे हैं. so ये steps use करेंगे तो हर step में what are the various kinds of implements or equipment or technology that can be used in conducting, ये आप agriculture engineering के लिए ये steps बहुत easy रहेंगे. ठीक है. So this is all from my end. Now I'm stopping the sharing. now the forum is open for your queries, questions. Yes, I'll be more than happy to look into your queries. Yes. Anyone, any query, any question, I'll be more than happy to look into them.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, as you have already like kind of basic to bata diya hai about the classification of crops,
Okay.
and there we see lot of like classification like seasonal ho, ye ho, seasonal
Mm-hmm.
का हो. Uh, rather than that, like
Mm-hmm.
जैसा crops होता है, fiber crops रहता है, and then cereal crops रहता है, तो like
Mm-hmm.
cereal crops लोग रहता है, oil seeds में mustard
Right, right.
और
Mm-hmm.
वो लोग रहता है, तो वो लोग का भी like मैम will you teach us about the cultivation practices वो सब भी like
देखिए,
for
can you okay,
just
I understood what you wanted, what you are saying. See, हम क्या करेंगे, if at all I'm going to take your classes, what I generally do, no, I जो भी cultural practices है वो पूरा मैं explain कर दूंगी आपको, ठीक है, and then I'll provide handouts. जैसे पैडी है, पैडी के जो मेजर कंटेंट है वो कहाँ से ओरिजिन है उसका, उसके मेजर पार्ट्स क्या है, व्हाट आर द टेक्निकलिटीज एसोसिएटेड विथ पैडी प्रोडक्शन, व्हाट आर द लेटेस्ट वेराइटीज, उसका ऐसे 3 to 4 पेजेस का एक हैंड आउट दे दूंगी आपको. यू कैन गो थ्रू दैट, बिकॉज इफ अगेन वो भी मैं क्लासेस में लेने लगी ना, इट विल टेक लॉट ऑफ टाइम.
yeah ma'am I
ओके.
understand.
हाँ, वो बेसिक कल्चरल प्रैक्टिसेस तो हमारा एक पूरा एक क्लास सिर्फ उसी के लिए होगा. व्हाट आर द वेरियस टाइप्स ऑफ कल्चरल प्रैक्टिसेस दैट आर फॉलोड इन वेरियस क्रॉप्स करके, उसमें एटलीस्ट 40-50 प्रैक्टिसेस होंगे, एक एक बेस्ड ऑन द टर्म, नो कई सारे टर्म्स होते हैं ना, वो सारे मैं एक्सप्लेन करूंगी एंड आई विल लेट यू नो हाउ दे आर डन, एंड आई विल प्रोवाइड यू विद द हैंडआउट्स ऑफ फ्यू मेजर इंपॉर्टेंट क्रॉप्स, इफ नॉट ऑल, which you
Yes.
can go through at your convenience, and उसमें कुछ डाउट्स हो तो अगेन वी कैन डिस्कस इन द क्लास.
Oh, okay, thank you ma'am.
ओके. ये सिलेबस बहुत वास्ट है, सो हमें थोड़ा सा यहाँ स्मार्ट वर्क करना पड़ेगा, सो मेरे साथ साथ आपको भी थोड़ा सा होमवर्क करना पड़ेगा, विच आई विल गिव वेर एवर रिक्वायर्ड, एंड डेफिनेटली विल डिस्कस दैट होमवर्क ऑल्सो क्लास में, जब भी डाउट्स होंगे विल डिस्कस देम. बट क्रॉप्स स्पेशली व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट फील्ड क्रॉप्स या फिर कुछ हॉर्टिकल्चर क्रॉप्स भी कवर करना पड़ेगा डेफिनेटली. ऑल दैट विल बी डूइंग इन द फॉर्म ऑफ हैंडआउट्स, मैं आपको हैंड ओवर कर दूंगी. यू कैन गो थ्रू देम एंड वी कैन डिस्कस इन द क्लास बेस्ड ऑन द डाउट्स दैट यू गेट. अदरवाइज बेसिक कॉन्सेप्ट सारे हम लोग क्लास में पढ़ लेंगे. यस, एनी क्वेश्चंस, एनी मोर क्वेरीज? तो आपको बहुत लंबा हो गया, मेरे क्लासेस थोड़े से लेंदी होते हैं, आई बिकॉज आई नेवर कॉम्प्रोमाइज ऑन दैट कंटेंट और क्वालिटी. सी, अगर ओवरऑल कोर्स है तो डेफिनेटली वी हैव टू कवर करंट अफेयर्स ऑल्सो एग्रीकल्चर का. सो कोर्स में है तो डेफिनेटली we'll look into that current affairs as well, wherever required. Again, it would be again as per the requirement of the exam and the course that we are launching. Okay, thanks a lot, B. आप सही से अपने नाम लिखिएगा ना, it would be very easy for me to communicate. Anyways, you have been great audience. Thank you very much. कहीं पे भी बीच में आपने बिल्कुल इंटरफियर नहीं किया, मैंने बिल्कुल डिस्टर्ब नहीं किया. Thanks a lot for that. Yes, NS, if I will teach, I'll take you through pathology and entomology as well. Don't worry. पूरा कोर्स ही करेंगे, करना है तो why would we leave few topics? Maybe if not me, some other teacher. But definitely as per the syllabus we have, we'll cover everything. Yes, any more queries? Yes, thanks a lot again for being great audience. Hope to see you all in the classes.